This video is sponsored by Delve. More on that later in the video. On March 12, 2015, the world was introduced to a colorful band of nerdy-ass voice actors playing Dungeons & Dragons. This show would go on to revitalize the tabletop industry, turning the struggling Dungeons & Dragons IP into a juggernaut of the industry again. The show was Critical Role. This video is not about them though, not specifically. Now we all know the story of Critical Role and how it became what it is, but oftentimes we forget or just kind of don't recognize that they haven't always been on their own channel. Originally, they were on a channel called Geek and Sundry. The channel hit its peak in 2018 when it had 55,349 Twitch subscribers, but that number dropped to about 52 by the end of 2020. Massive layoffs, corporate acquisitions, and a lawsuit by one of Star Trek's most recognizable actors led to the downfall of this tabletop leader in the industry. What happened to Geek and Sundry? Did Critical Role escape just in time to avoid its downfall, or did them leaving accidentally trigger it? Well, let's find out. Howdy folks, and welcome back to Delver. Now before I begin, I just need to say the sources for this video are scattered and not complete. I got a lot of my information from news articles, from blog posts, from the Wikipedia on Geek and Sundry, so if I leave out any information, please leave it down in the comments below. I did try to grab everything, but I am too aware that I have probably missed something important, so comment below if you know. Geek and Sundry was started on April 2nd, 2012 by actress Felicia Day, actress 𝐾𝐸𝐬𝐸, and producer Sherry Bryant. The channel was one of many selected to be a part of YouTube's 100 million original channel initiative. And in fact, it was so successful for the year following that it received an additional payment from the initiative for its success. It began with 3 unscripted programs for the channel. The Flog, hosted by Felicia Day, Sword and Laser, hosted by Veronica Belmont and Tom Merritt, and Tabletop, hosted by Wil Wheaton. Now, you may recognize Wil Wheaton from his appearances on Star Trek The Next Generation as Wesley Crusher, or you might recognize him as appearing as himself in The Big Bang Theory. He's going to be very important, so make sure to keep an eye on him. Despite its success, the channel was purchased by Legendary Entertainment in August of 2014. Now, you might recognize Legendary Entertainment for movies like Godzilla vs. Kong, you might recognize them for As Above, So Below, and of course, Pacific Rim, one of the best movies ever made. I will die on that hill. Geek and Sundry was merged with Nerdist and brought into the Legendary Digital Network, or LDN. In March of 2015, Felicia Day then helped the company launch their first Twitch channel after she got into streaming herself. There were many programs that were going to be streamed on this channel, but she made it clear that they had to have something related to Dungeons & Dragons, and her friend, Matt Mercer, had a home game that was going really well, and it was a perfect fit. Critical Role made its debut on March 12th, 2015. The show took off from there, and it is undoubtedly one of the most popular, if not the most it is the most popular Dungeons & Dragons show ever. This new show was a home run for Geek and Sundry, but it was also creator-owned and remained creator-owned. This was despite it streaming and being produced by Geek and Sundry. The company was doing great, but the signs of struggle were soon to follow. On January 11th, 2016, Legendary Entertainment, along with Geek and Sundry, was acquired by the Chinese conglomerate Wanda Group for $3.5 billion. A few months later, a subscription service came out called Alpha, and this was a place that you could watch Geek and Sundry content, as well as Talks Machina After Dark, a 15-minute or so extra add-on to Talks Machina with questions only sourced from Alpha subscribers. The service was widely disliked by fans of the channel and people that just liked Critical Role. Things only got more complicated when Felicia Day left the company later that year. She had been forced into a managerial role rather than a creative role, and it was exhausting her, it was tiring her, and it was fatiguing her. I know I put it in the script, but I think those are all words for the same thing. Felicia Day said, and I quote, "I gave it my heart and my soul. When I realized I had given as much as I could, I needed to move on." Things did continue to grow after Day left, though. Geek and Sundry started to introduce other tabletop shows due to the success of Critical Role, like Sagas of Sundry, Painters Guild, and Round Table. This growth can also be attributed to Marisha Ray, one of the players in Critical Role, becoming the creative director for Geek and Sundry in July of 2017. The channel was doing great, and at its peak, the Twitch channel had 55,349 subscribers. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to last. But do you know what is meant to last? Good dungeons. Look, this is my first ever sponsorship on the channel. When I started this YouTube journey a few months ago, I made a promise to myself early on that I would only ever promote products that I was genuinely excited about. That's the reason I am excited to tell you guys about Delve. This 200+ page guide includes a dungeon design toolkit for DMs, over 10 plug-and-play dungeons, new subclasses for D&D, new class talents for Shadowdark, monsters, traps, puzzles, you name it. The Kickstarter starts on April 30th, 2024 at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And here's the really awesome part. Anybody who pledges within the first 100 hours for a physical copy receives 3 holographic monster cards. And look, I approached Bob Worldbuilder originally because I wanted to promote this product for free. I just like it that much. I mean, after all, it is only 1 letter off from my channel name, so you know it's gonna be good. Still, Bob offered me a referral link, a special one that you can find in the description, that allows you to go there, click on it, go to the Kickstarter, pledge to support it, and if you do, you also directly support me and the Delver channel. So please, if you are interested, head on over to the Kickstarter and engage in this really awesome project that's taking form. And please use my referral link. Thank you again for Bob and Evantier Games for the support. Now back to the video. In June of 2018, Critical Role started to upload some of their other side projects onto a different platform. This also coincided with Marisha Ray stepping away from the role of creative director and having Matt Key fill in. Unfortunately, the role wasn't meant to last because the next year, it would be eliminated entirely from the company. 1 year after Geek and Sundry's peak, Critical Role announced that they were going to be stepping away from Geek and Sundry and the LDN. Because the show was still creator-owned, they decided what was best for them was to leave and create their own company, Critical Role Productions. The former episodes of Vox Machina would still remain on Geek and Sundry, but eventually would be moved to the new Critical Role YouTube page. The loss of Critical Role was massive, and the effects were immediate. In March, Alpha, the subscription service, was completely shut down. Now, they did attempt to replace Critical Role with a new show called Relics and Rarities, hosted by Deborah Ann Wool, who you might know as playing Karen Page in Netflix's Daredevil. The show was well received, the audience just wasn't there anymore, and because of low views, it wasn't renewed for a second season. Geek and Sundry was in decline, but it would only get worse in April of 2019. Wil Wheaton announced that he was going to sue Geek and Sundry for breach of contract. You see, Wheaton was hired in 2015 to produce, create, and host a show called Titan's Grave: The Ashes of Valkana. He was paid $50,000 initially, and with a guaranteed 50% of all net profit going to him from the show. In the contract, Wheaton specified that Legendary Entertainment had the right to distribute, to promote, and to exploit the show, so long as he was consulted meaningfully before they did. The claim came from Legendary not consulting Wheaton before they decided to license and distribute the show for Sinclair Broadcasting, Pluto TV, and Hulu. According to Wheaton himself, he didn't even know they were on those platforms until he stumbled upon them himself while watching TV. Through this lawsuit, Wheaton was seeking $100,000 in damages. Throughout the process, he attempted to audit Legendary as well to see what they were doing with the money that he was promised for the 50% net, but they decided to not show him, and then eventually they settled out of court in 2023. The lawsuit was bad, but it was just a signal for more trouble ahead with Geek and Sundry. By January of 2020, Geek and Sundry had lost approximately 55,049 Twitch subscribers, leaving them with only 300 left. And unfortunately, that wasn't the lowest, because in October of that same year, it would dip down to 52 subscribers. Now, this also coincided with a 30% reduction in staff from the LDN in July of 2020. The website stopped updating. The Twitch channel stopped streaming as well, except for Save Point and Celebra D&D, which wasn't even produced by Geek and Sundry, it was produced by Nerdist. 8 months later, Becca Scott's How to Play started to release on the channel. Now, this continued until June of 2022. The YouTube channel was just now an archive place to upload alpha exclusive content that hadn't been seen on YouTube before. In fact, the last piece of original content was uploaded to the channel in April of 2023 and was another episode of Game the Game. It's important to know, and I'm gonna have to read this off my screen because it's such a big number, that Critical Role received a direct payment of $9,626,712 between September 2019 and September 2021 just from Twitch subscribers and ad revenue on the platform. When they left Geek and Sundry, They actually took their entire audience with them. A very small percentage of that audience remained behind to even support Geek and Sundry in any of their other projects. To be clear though, and I need to make this clear, this is not Critical Role's fault in any way. More than likely, they needed the creative freedom to pursue other projects like The Legend of Vox Machina, which is now on Prime, as well as Daggerheart, which is their entire new roleplay system. If they had still been under the LDN, Legendary Entertainment, the Wanda Group, there would be too many hands having a say on what they could do. We probably wouldn't have the show, we probably wouldn't have the game, or at least we would have them in very different forms versus ones that are owned by the creators. Now remember, Critical Role brought massive success to Geek and Sundry, but them remaining there restricted them, creatively and financially. They couldn't do the number of things that they probably do now, and if they had stayed, there is a likely chance that they would have slowly wilted away like Geek and Sundry did. Many years after she left, Felicia Day made an Instagram post talking about her hand in creating Critical Role and how much she loved, helping to produce it. Now keep in mind, since splitting from Geek and Sundry, Felicia Day has actively worked in different projects with Critical Role Productions, including having 2 voice roles in The Legend of Vox Machina. Felicia Day is seemingly very close to the cast still, and we see that in a lot of the different things that go on with her and them. Wil Wheaton, however, had a different perspective. Underneath the original post, Wil Wheaton commented this: "I would love it if, just once, just one time, Critical Role would give you the gratitude and everything else you deserve. They would not exist without you, and they seem to have largely left that fact and all the work and money you invested out of their origin story. Or minimized it at least. It's not cool." The post was removed very shortly after, and many people speculate that Felicia Day asked Wil Wheaton to do it because he was misinformed on the relationship that she had with Critical Role. It wasn't one of spite or anger, he was just confused, or just harboring bad sentiment. And overall, that's the entire story of how Geek and Sundry went from the top of the industry and revitalized tabletop gaming, and then crashed. In fact, it hasn't had an upload in a long time, and it's just a place for posting previously exclusive content, an archive. But still, no matter what they are today, they had a massive hand in creating Critical Role, and as I said before, bringing people back into tabletop gaming, and that can't be understated in any capacity. I would personally love to see Geek and Sundry see a massive comeback, and in fact, there are channels that have done this recently, like Smosh, and I hope that they can look toward that and make something incredible. Thank you guys for watching the video. I'll see you next time.